Hello YouTube, I do hope everybody's doing well and I do hope that life is treating you well. If you're recently subscribed to my channel, thanks very much. I'm sorry I haven't made more content. I am super busy at work. I think it's our busiest time of year, so I probably will be putting more content out during the winter months than I will be putting out during the summer months, because I've got a mortgage and I've got to pay that, unfortunately. Anyway, many thanks for subscribing. If you subscribe to my channel, thank you very much. 10 red flags when you're quoting for new clients. I'm just going to have a ramble, if that's okay, to start off with. I've had to write some notes for this because I'm getting on a bit now and I can't remember. I would never be able to remember all 10 if I didn't write them down, I'm afraid. So to start off with, I try and avoid customers when I go there. Well, the first thing you'll get before you even go to a quote is you may get a gut feeling that it's not going to be for you before you even get to the job. Usually my gut's right, so try and follow your gut instincts. So obviously you'd have taken a phone call and agreed to go and look at the job, so you'd have got past that stage anyway. So that's my first thing I will say before we get on to my list of 10. So if I turn up for a job and they say the husband's cutting the grass, or there's somebody, the neighbour coming, or a friend, or blah blah blah, whatever, heard it all before. Somebody's doing the hedging, somebody's doing the grass. I get this a lot. I've been gardening for years. They only want you to do, or they only want me to do the hard parts, because I know the difference between a dandelion and a daffodil, hopefully. They get me to do the weeding. I'm not doing them anymore. I used to when I started. I'd take on any job and you would find that you'd be doing the jobs that no other gardeners want, so avoid that if you can. Other jobs I avoid if it's far too far away from home, so anything over half an hour for me. I avoid any jobs that are too far away, and also like sandbanks for me is a nightmare to get in and out of in the summer because of the traffic. So certain areas you'll find the same, you won't want to go there because it can add an hour to your day or whatever. Right, if a client says my neighbour's been doing it but I don't like to keep asking them, for me that's normally a sign that it's not going to be the best job for me. In no particular order, number 10, houses that are on a steep hill or a steep incline where I've got to park the van steeply, and houses with terraced gardens, so split level gardens, and lots of small steps, lots of trip hazards, lots of obstacles and things you got to climb over. I have had a few this year and I wish I hadn't have took them on, but I did, and I got paid thankfully, but I've given them up now. That's this year. I didn't fall or trip, thankfully. Normally I just walk straight out. When I go in, I walk straight out and say, look, sorry, it's not for, I'm polite about it, I'm not rude or anything, but yeah, don't do them. Personally, you can do them, I don't do them. Number 9, customers that don't get back to me. So I send them a text message, or I phone them, or I phone them and I get their answer phone, they phone me, get the answer phone, I phone them, and it goes on like that. I get rid of them. Number 8 for me, customers demands an hourly rate. So it could be the most common one we get, you probably all get it, is they phone up and ask what your hourly rate is. So they don't really ask any other questions, like, it's just directly what's your hourly rate. So they're basing it just on price. I always say to them that I'll come out and do a quote, but try and avoid ones on an hourly basis. You probably already know this, but yeah, so customer demands an hourly rate. For me, that's no good. Number 7 for me, new builds. There are a lot of new builds in my area in Wimborne where I am, and it's not true of all of them, and people in new builds watching this will say, oh, that's not true for us, but in my experience the builders don't do a very good job, or the contractors don't, that put the gardens in. Usually when I say garden I mean it's turf, and normally it's turf on top of brick rubble. Normally when they phone me they want beds and borders cut out. So again, for me, and I'm talking my experience, so it'd be different for you, you may have a lot of new build work and you may get a lot of new build work. My experience, this is in my opinion, based on my experience. Obviously your experience is going to be totally different from mine, but I've had no luck whatsoever with new builds, so I avoid them like the plague. Right, number 6, I put this down. They're in no particular order, like I said, but so one-off jobs. I've done a few and I've done them recently, and I've put on there, what did I charge for this, that and the other. A lot of the one-off jobs, they've said to me when I've gone to quote, and I've took them on, I've made videos of them, they haven't been done. I've spoken to the neighbours and they say, oh, they haven't had anybody for 5-6 years to do anything major like what I do. They've just had somebody come in and mow the grass, and that's about it. You know, once in a blue moon sort of thing. Watch out for the ones where they say it's a one-off job, and they go to you, if you do a good job, I know more people that I can recommend you to. We had one at the start of the year in January. I had one, I was using a chainsaw on it, I did the video on it. He said, yeah, he said, if you do a good job, my mum wants a gardener and somebody else wants a gardener and somebody else wants a gardener. Oh, rubbish. Watch out for it. Carrot and the stick. You do a good job on my garden, I promise you a load more work. Or it can be, you do a good job on my garden and I promise you regular return work at this same garden. And 30 years experience would say to me, that's rubbish. They're just, it's a line that they feed to you because they want a cheap price for that one day's work to get their garden up together. And when you phone them up and go, hi, do you want me to come back and just, you know, mow the lawns, whatever, 45 quid or whatever it is for you, 25 quid, doesn't matter, whatever it is, they go, oh no, I've got me old fly mow out and I'm going over it with a fly mow, or the husband's doing it now. So what you thought was going to be regular work and you priced it as regular work, then turns out that you've been used. My wife says to me, she said, you're a service operator. She said, you provide a service for people. She said, people are going to use you. And I said, yes, but I said, when I quote, sometimes I will give them my, well, not sometimes, nearly always I'll give them my best price. And that is a lesson learned for me. You just watch out when it's a one-off, you want to be charging, I don't know, whatever figure, 50 quid more or whatever it is, more plus. Don't undercharge for one-off jobs. That's the moral of the story from this gardener. Number 5 for me, and this happens a lot to me, and it gets me down. It really gets me down. Number 5, people asking you for an exact time. So they want an exact day and an exact time. So not AM and PM, but what time will Steve come? Will it be 9 AM? Will it be 10 AM? 11 AM? What time will Steve come is what they say. And then they're rigid. They're rigid on that time. So if you're not there at 9, they'll complain. Busier in this car park than Clapham Central. So if you're not there at 9 o'clock, they'll complain. They'll be on the phone straight away to Mara, and then Mara's on the phone to me. Where are you? Get rid. Does my head in. Number 4 for me. Dog poo. Ugh. Yeah, again, when I started out, I would do any job and all jobs, but now when I go to quote, I do ask, if I remember, not always, I do ask if they've got any pets. And some jobs I've been to, I went to a new build earlier on this year, so if it wasn't bad enough it was a new build, and if it wasn't bad enough the grass was long, and if it wasn't bad enough that I thought they were using me because once I cut the grass the husband was going to take over, if that wasn't bad enough, they had 2 dogs and they were mental. They were running around like loons. I did do a video on that, about the dog poo one. But I've had quite a few jobs I've done where there was a lot of dog poo, and I can't believe I did them for so long and didn't pack them in. But it's because you kind of got, for me, I've got a mortgage to pay and I've got a family, I've got kids. So that's why I kept doing it. But really I should have stopped doing them, and then I would have had that time spare to take on a new customer, because there's plenty of new customers out there and there's plenty of good customers out there. Because you go to some customers and there is a lot of them, good customers, and they'll say they haven't been able to find a good gardener. So if you've got a bad customer, you get rid of them and get a good customer. Number 3, clock watchers. I had an old lady, and I'd done her for years, and it went really well. And I remember distinctively after a few weeks of doing it, she said, Steve, you work 3 times harder than the guy I had before you. And I thought, great. So I think she was paying about 15 quid an hour. So if you follow the maths, 3 times 15 is £45 an hour. Well, I wasn't charging her 3 times what the other gardener was charging her. I was charging her £30. Bear in mind, I'm a professional qualified gardener. And she told me this. And then I worked for her for a few years, and I used to say to Mara, she was always getting me to do stuff when I'd finished. So I had 5 minutes and I'd pack up, and I'd know that she'd want to chat. She'll take like half an hour to write a check out for me, and God knows what, she came out with jam jars. Can you open this? I can't open it. My heating thermostat's gone wrong, can you have a look at it? Because she couldn't see, and she was, Anyway, if you've got ones like that that are getting you to put their wheelie bins out, bring their wheelie bins in, pick their newspapers up, bring their newspapers in, bring their milk in, God knows, whatever, if you've got ones like that, get rid. Because you will find them, and like, I can't see an electrician, a plumber, or anybody else doing all these things, but clock watchers, get rid of them. She said to me, so I did all these things for her, and it came to a pinnacle point. I had a really hard day and I did loads for her, and I was thinking, my God, I've done loads. This should have been a price job. And it was a 2-hour job for £60. And she went, oh, she said, are you going? She said, you've got 5 more minutes by my watch. She said, can you just cut those roses that are hanging down because they're catching the postman's face when he walks up and down? I was like, oh, I was just like fuming. I said, no. I said, what we'll do is, I said, I won't come back again. She said, I beg your pardon? I said, I won't come back again. And she said, why? I said, well, I've done all this work. I said, and all you've turned around and said is you got 5 more minutes. And I said, look, I said, I'll tell you what I do. I said, we'll knock half an hour off. I said, you give me £45, cut me a cheque now. I said, you won't see him again. She said, don't be so silly. And then she said, I said, no, I'm finished. She said, oh, what am I going to do? I said, well, that's your problem, not mine. But I felt so, undervalued, and like, I've been working there for years, and I worked ever so hard, and on that day I did work ever so hard. And anyway, clock watchers, get rid. Number 2, like I said, these aren't in any particular order. I think any of these things are bad if I see them, but number 2 is parking. In Wimborne, I almost know when people ring me that it's no good when they say the name of the road. But there's a lot of roads in Wimborne where it's all yellow lines. I'll tell you a quick story. Went to a job. It was in the video, I think, earlier on this year. Earlier on last year, because I've been doing it for 2 years now, YouTube. But I went to the job and I parked in the only one space they had, which was up a service road miles from the entrance to the house. So you had to walk down the service road from the garage and round along the main road and in through the garden gate. So if that wasn't bad enough, a care worker turned up and she started screaming. I won't talk about the care worker, but a care worker turned up, and care workers are lovely people. This lady wasn't. She was like, oh, you're in my space, what am I going to do? And this was just a quote for the job. So I went, you can have it. Boom, gone, got rid. Nightmare jobs. But I mean, before I went there, I had a feeling in my stomach. She literally got out of her car, a little tiny car that she has, that's all they need in it for a care worker. She came up to me and she's like, you're in my space. She was like spitting nails, and I was like, mate, honestly, you can have the space, you're doing me a favour. And I was gone. And I go, these jobs I'm talking about as well, I go past them every day and I look at them and no one else has done them, so it's not me. It's not like, oh, Steve, you're too fussy, mate. These jobs, I go past them, and there's jobs now that I've turned down, I go past them, they're still not done. Right, number 1, if they say this to you, my last gardener charged me £10 an hour, or 15, or whatever it is, or whatever, and then they tell you how long he was there for and how much he was charging, and then they turn around to me, I've had this before, do you not take the waste away? Like, yes, I do, but now it's £7.50 a bag. It was £5. And it's like, oh, he used to take the waste away for free. It's like, get rid, don't do them. And the other one, more important than all of these 10 ones, and it's not a red flag for when you're quoting. You won't find out until you do the job, but bad payers if they don't pay. So, I mean, this is the thing. I can't offer the answers to all of these because inherently all of the jobs that I've got on my books will have some red flags. So if I went through the list that I've just given you and went, get rid, I'd have empty books, to be honest. So I don't know what the answer is. I just think, in my opinion, for some reason, gardeners get treated differently to other trades. I don't know why. I think gardeners on YouTube have said they believe the reason we get treated differently is because the householder that we work for, or Joe Blogs that we work for, can actually do the job themselves, but they can never do it to the standard that we do it, because we're professional, qualified or experienced you know, well experienced in my case. But that's my 10. I don't know if I've left anything out. There's going to be more, but really I think the more important thing is when you do go to quote for somebody, you're not just looking at whether you want the garden. You're looking at whether you want the customer, or whether the person is going to, you know, work with you, you know, whether you can get along together, sort of thing is what I'm saying. But I mean, in some cases you're not gonna know until you start the job. But that's my 10 red flags anyway. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video and you're watching and you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. It would help my channel out loads. It's hard work making these videos. It was really hard work finding finding somewhere to park up where there wasn't too many people going by, but this didn't seem to be. It's end of work now, so it's like, I don't know, probably gone 5 o'clock, so it's people about everywhere. It's a really busy time of day, and it's not raining. It's a lovely day today, hot day. Anyway, so stop waffling, Steve. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.